Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. I was seated behind a pillar at my sister's wedding, the kind of seat you give someone you want the world to forget. Everyone smiled, but not at me. They talked over my head, toasted without glancing my way. It felt like I was a ghost wearing a suit that did not belong in the photo. Then a woman I had never seen before sat beside me. She leaned in, whispered, "Just follow my lead and pretend you are my love." Before I could ask why she stood glass raised, every head turned. My sister's laughter froze midair. For the first time that night, the spotlight was not hers. It was mine. And that was when everything began to unravel. I love seeing how far my story can reach. It reminds me I am not alone in this. Thank you. And now let me tell you everything. If you find a piece of yourself in my story, please consider subscribing to the channel. I am Evan Carter, and this is how a man the world tried to hide learned to stand in the light again. The scent of brown butter and vanilla always hit first, then the faint hum of the mixer, the low whistle of the espresso machine warming up. That was my kind of dawn. 5:00 a.m. at Oak and Ivy Bakery in St. Augustine was not a time for talking. It was a time for precision. Fold, weigh, glaze, breathe. I never needed much else. I had been there since I was 26, a pastry chef who kept his head down and his sleeves rolled. The kind of man people described as steady when they could not think of anything better. I was not famous or flashy, but I knew how to make things rise. That morning, I had just pulled a tray of honey lavender Queen Amman from the oven when the front doorbell chimed and sunlight poured across the counters like liquid gold. It was the hour the city still yawned that quiet, lonely beauty before St. Augustine woke up. My boss leaned over my shoulder, nodded at the perfect caramelized layers. "You have got the patience of a surgeon, Carter. Take a bow." I just smiled, wiped my hands, and went back to work. Compliments always felt temporary. By the time I got home around 3:00 p.m., the kitchen light had softened into something warm and tired. Bills, circulars, the usual junk mail lay waiting, and one envelope that did not belong. Heavy stock cream colored, embossed in navy ink, with two names written in the kind of script that screams wealth: Lauren Bennett and Ryan Abbott, my sister and her perfect fiancé. I stood there still half-coated in flour, staring at it like it might explode. The handwriting on the small note tucked inside was hers. It would mean everything if you came. I almost laughed. The last time we had spoken, she had called me our family's creative one, which was Evelyn code for the one who did not make money. I remembered last Thanksgiving at our mother's house. I had spent 2 days perfecting a pumpkin honey cheesecake with a ginger snap crust. When I brought it out, my mother barely looked up. "Oh, darling, that is quite a lot of work." Lauren had brought pie so classic, so timeless. The store-bought crust cracked when she cut it, and everyone still clapped. That was the kind of house we grew up in. Evelyn Bennett worshipped image, not effort. Lauren learned how to shine. I learned how to vanish. I texted my sister just congratulations. No emoji. An hour later, I called. She answered on the third ring, distracted, her voice echoing with the sound of someone already rehearsing for a better life. "Evan." "Oh, good. You got it. We were worried it might have gotten lost." "You will come, right?" I said I would. She started talking about Ryan's company, Evergreen Biotech. He is the regional director. Mom is thrilled. And before I could ask anything, she cut the call short. "I am late for the planner talk soon." Click. Silence. I opened the fridge, stared at the orange mousse base I had been testing, and thought about turning it into something gift-worthy. Then I looked up hotel prices. The Amelia Island Grand Resort, historic, expensive, all-white balconies and manicured lawns, exactly Lauren's style. I booked a room for 3 nights and wrote in my notes app, "Go. Watch. Remember, no apologies." On my way to the corner store for ribbon, Mrs. Porter, the old grocer, looked up from her counter and said, People forget who baked the cake, son, but they never forget the taste. I smiled, not realizing she had just handed me the truest line of my life. That night, I placed the wedding invitation in the drawer beside my favorite offset spatula. Two objects from different worlds sharing the same quiet. I would go to the wedding, bring a gift made by hand, and keep my mouth shut. I would let them decide where to put me, and I would remember every detail. The highway toward Amelia Island cut through pine woods and marshland that smelled of salt and rain. Jazz from an old radio bled softly through the hum of the tires, Miles Davis. The kind of music that makes solitude feel earned. I was not nervous. I had already accepted what I was walking into. A performance scripted long before I arrived. The resort rose out of the horizon like a movie set. Victorian rooftops, white fences, too much order to feel human. Valets darted between Lexus sedans and rental SUVs. It was mid-afternoon, the sun slanting low when I parked by the fountain and carried my small box wrapped in silver paper. I had come early thinking I might help if they needed anything. The bridal suite door was half open, laughter spilling out, champagne glasses matching robes, the scent of hairspray and money. I knocked softly. Lauren looked up from the mirror, the makeup artist hovering near her cheek. "Oh, Evan, you are early. That is so thoughtful." But the planner had everything handled. The planner, a woman with a headset, stepped forward like security. "We are all set, Mr. Carter. Ceremony starts soon." The message was clear. "Stay out of the frame." I nodded, muttered, "Of course," and backed out the laughter behind the door, closing like a seal. Outside, staff moved in a flurry, florists trimming stems, a guitarist testing sound. I walked between rows of white chairs, scanning for my name card. Front row, Evelyn Bennett. Maid of honor, Dr. and Mrs. Abbott. I expected second row at best, maybe third. I found mine at the very back. Evan Carter, the last seat half hidden behind a marble Corinthian pillar. From there, 2/3 of the ceremony would be blocked. I tried shifting the card to the next empty chair, but it was anchored down. Intentional. Someone had planned this. The first guests arrived all perfume and polished shoes. I recognized a few cousins' people who used to pinch my cheek at Christmas before forgetting I existed. None of them noticed me now. My mother swept in 15 minutes before 5, wearing champagne satin, the exact color of approval. A groomsman guided her to the front. She did not turn once. I sat back, hands clasped, and watched the light change on the lake. A shadow moved beside me. A woman slid into the chair 2 seats away, crossing her legs, calm as though she belonged nowhere and everywhere at once. Early 30s, dark-haired, a steady confidence in the way she exhaled. "Guess we got the VIP section," she said. Her voice was smooth rye. "Yeah, I answered best view of the back of everyone's heads." She laughed quietly. "So who exiled you?" "Bride's brother, family politics. I am Maya Collins, friend of a colleague, technically here alone." She glanced around, taking in the angle of the column. "This is where they put people they don't want others to notice." I smiled without humor. Then they placed us perfectly. The music began, strings swelling from hidden speakers. I leaned to see around the pillar, catching glimpses of white lace and a flash of Ryan's grin. Lauren looked flawless, of course. Even her joy felt rehearsed. The officiant's voice blurred into background hum. I listened without hearing, seeing, without being seen. When the applause rose and the kiss sealed the show, I realized my hands were clenched so tight my knuckles ached. As people stood buzzing toward the cocktail pavilion, Maya leaned closer. "Follow my lead," she murmured. Her tone was easy, but carried something electric underneath. Before I could ask, she slipped her arm through mine, her perfume sharp with citrus and cedar. "Trust me," she whispered. And for the first time that day, I felt visible, not redeemed, not rescued, but seen just enough to remember I was still here. The cocktail hour shimmered with that curated kind of charm. Amber lights strung over the deck, laughter bouncing off the lake, the faint scent of grilled seafood drifting through the air. I stayed mostly on the edge, a glass of water in hand, the same way I had survived most family gatherings. Present, polite, invisible. Maya Collins appeared with 2 flutes of champagne and that calm smile of someone who understood silence better than noise. She handed me one without asking. "You looked like you needed a prop," she said. I let out a quiet laugh. "I am better with spatulas than with champagne." She tilted her head. "So it is true. You are the pastry guy. Your sister's florist mentioned you." I nodded. "I work at Oak and Ivy Bakery. Mostly mornings fewer people, then more precision." She seemed genuinely curious. "You must like control." "I like the part I can control," I said. "When butter, sugar, and heat listen to you, it feels like something in life finally does." Maya smiled. "That is a poetic way of saying you work too hard." For a while we stood watching reflections ripple on the water. She told me she was consulting for a sustainability firm focused on renewable energy transitions for corporate healthcare. "We are finalizing a green operations contract with Evergreen Biotech," she added casually. My hand tightened around the glass. "Evergreen." She nodded, eyes sharp enough to catch my shift. "You know it. My new brother-in-law, Ryan Abbott, runs it." She lifted a brow. "Well then, this just got interesting." When the staff began herding guests toward the ballroom, I followed the stream of sequins and tuxedos, pretending not to care. I found my name again at the farthest corner table, half obscured by a pillar. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Maya Collins' nameplate, however, gleamed under the crystal lights near the head table. She glanced back, met my eyes, and crossed the room. "Sit with me," she said quietly. "If anyone asks, they mixed up the chart." "I do think that is just follow my lead." Her tone made resistance feel pointless. Moments later, I was sitting at a table lined with people who smelled like influence and old money. At the center sat Denise Caldwell, COO of Evergreen Biotech, the kind of woman who carried silence like armor. She looked at Maya, then at me, and smiled. "Ah, so you are Maya's partner." The word hung there like a test. I should have corrected her, but Maya's fingers brushed mine under the table, steady, deliberate. I only nodded. "Something like that." Denise's eyes softened. "Well, good. She needs someone who is not afraid to stand still while everyone else runs." Dinner moved in a blur of courses and conversation. My mother gave a speech that could have been an ad for parental favoritism. Lauren has always made us proud with no mention of her other child. I held my glass steady, watching candlelight flicker on her diamond bracelet, and said nothing. Under the table, Maya's hand stayed still against mine, a quiet kind of solidarity that did not need explaining. Later, when the MC announced a few words from our sustainability partner, Maya stood. The spotlight cut across her hair like a halo. "Every strong system has its blind spots." She began, voice calm and clear. "Sometimes the people who build the foundation end up standing behind the pillars unseen. That is how structures start to crack. Sustainability is not just about energy. It is about inclusion, about noticing who is missing from the room." The ballroom fell into a hush. My mother's smile froze. Lauren's eyes darted toward me just long enough to register the shift. Ryan adjusted his tie, his jaw tight. Denise leaned forward, slightly intrigued. I sat there, caught between shame and awe. Maya was not rescuing me. She was giving me a mirror, a way to see what being overlooked had done to me. When the applause broke out, Maya returned to her seat, calm as ever. "You did not have to do that," I murmured. "I did not," she said softly. "You already earned it. I just turned up the light." After dinner, as the dance floor opened and music filled the air, she motioned toward the veranda. The night breeze carried salt and orange blossom from the gardens. "I'm sorry if that made things messy," she said. "Messy can be honest," I replied. She smiled. Breakfast by the lake tomorrow. I hesitated, then nodded. Sure, but only if you let me pay this time. Deal, she said, and for the first time that day the weight in my chest felt lighter. The next morning the air was warm and quiet, the lake as smooth as tempered sugar. We met at the Terrace Cafe just after sunrise. The staff moved quietly between tables, setting down coffee croissants and plates of fruit. Maya wore a linen dress the color of sand, her hair tied back. I sat across from her, uncertain how to act now that the performance was over. For a while, neither of us spoke. The world felt smaller here, slowed down like the part of a film where the noise fades and everything important happens in a glance. Finally, she said, So, pastry chef, how did you end up in a family that worships titles and stocks? I smiled. Really by mistake, I guess. My mom believes success wears a suit and speaks at galas. I smell like sugar and burnt caramel. That makes me ornamental at best. Maya stirred her coffee eyes, thoughtful. My father was the same. He wanted a lawyer. I dropped out of law school, went into renewable energy consulting. He said I had ruined our family's legacy. I have not spoken to him since. Her voice carried no bitterness, only a strange steadiness. I realized she was not telling a sob story. She was offering kinship. So she added, We are both family disappointments with decent taste. I laughed quietly. Guess we are. The waiter poured refills. Somewhere nearby, a sailboat cut across the lake. Maya's tone shifted. Ryan Abbott, your brother-in-law. He is leading the Evergreen Biotech contract my firm is finalizing. I am the final sign-off on the sustainability plan. I froze. You are kidding. No small world, right? She leaned forward, her gaze sharp now. If you want them to see you differently, you do not need to fight for a seat. You just need to stand where they cannot ignore you. What does that mean? I asked. It means showing up beside the right people at the right tables. There is a gala dinner in Beaufort next month. Denise Caldwell will be there, Ryan too. Come as my +1, not as my fake date, as my guest. Let them see the man who knows what integrity tastes like. I stared at her. That sounds a lot like manipulation. She shook her head. It is balance. The table has been tilted too long. My phone buzzed. Then a message from my mother. Family dinner after Lauren returns from her honeymoon. You can come if you want or not. Up to you. 3 words, up to you, hit harder than any insult. It was the polite way of saying I was optional. Expendable. I looked up from the screen, met Maya's eyes. All right, I said. I will do it, but it has to be clean. No backroom deals, no cheap revenge. She smiled slightly. The kind that hides a storm behind it? Clean, she repeated. Just like your pastries. Simple, honest, impossible to fake. The lake shimmered gold as the sun climbed higher. I realized this was not about getting even. It was about being seen without asking for permission. Maya did not offer salvation. She offered a mirror and the courage to step into my own reflection. When we left the cafe, the air smelled of salt and coffee and something electric I could not name. The wedding was over, but the story had just begun to rise like dough left in warmth. Quiet, slow, inevitable. Beaufort at night looked like it had been painted in candlelight. Cobblestone streets glistened after rain, and the old gas lamps burned soft halos above the sidewalks. Harbor Lantern sat on the corner of Bay and Carteret, its windows glowing amber, its name etched in brass. Inside, the sound of silver on porcelain hummed beneath low jazz. I followed Maya in adjusting my sleeves like armor I had not worn before. This was not my kitchen, not my world. The air here smelled like control. Denise Caldwell was already at the table, early 60s, silver-haired, cropped, clean posture that did not allow slouching. She greeted Maya warmly, then looked at me with measured curiosity. "So this is the man who knows flavors the way engineers know steel," she said. "Maya speaks highly." I almost choked on the introduction. "I am a pastry chef," I said quickly. "I do not know about steel." Denise smiled. "Well, every system needs its artisans." The meal moved in practiced rhythm servers, gliding wine glasses, whispering. Maya and Denise spoke in the language of contracts and renewable models, words that sounded more like geometry than conversation. I listened silent, absorbing the tempo of people who lived in rooms I had never been invited to. When Denise finally turned to me, her tone softened. "And you, Evan, do you find meaning in what you do?" I hesitated. "Meaning?" She nodded. "Yes. Purpose. Everyone at this table has an agenda. I am curious about yours." I set down my fork. "I bake because it is honest. If you mix wrong, it collapses. If you lie to the ingredients, they will expose you. You cannot fake balance. Not with heat." Denise considered that for a moment, then smiled again. Honesty is a rare currency in this business. When dessert arrived, a deconstructed lemon tart with lavender cream, I studied it the way a musician studies a discordant note. The composition was elegant but restless. Denise noticed. "Go ahead," she said. "Say what you are thinking." I looked up. It is fighting itself. The acid is bold, the lavender is shy. Neither knows who is leading. For a second, silence. Then Denise laughed genuinely. "Exactly. And the chef will hate you for being right." She leaned back. "Evergreen Biotech is hosting a sustainability gala in September. We need a dessert that says innovation without losing soul." "Maya tells me you understand both." She raised her glass. "What do you say?" I blinked. "You are offering me a job." "A collaboration," she corrected. "Let us see what happens when sincerity meets structure." Maya said nothing, but there was a flicker in her eyes, something between pride and calculation. After Denise left, I asked, "You set that up?" Maya met my gaze without guilt. "I introduced you. You did the rest." I wanted her to see you the way I do. I was not sure if I should be grateful or wary. She had a way of moving the board while pretending to just adjust a piece. "You plan every move, do you not?" I said quietly. She smiled faintly. "Only the first one. After that, I let gravity handle it." We stepped out into the Beaufort night, the rain scents still clinging to the bricks. As we crossed the street, I caught a glimpse through the hotel bar window. Ryan Abbott laughing too loudly, his hand on the waist of a woman who was not my sister. He froze for a second when he saw me. I looked back without blinking. The woman turned, whispered something, and they slipped out the side door. Maya noticed my silence as we reached her car. "You okay?" "Fine." I lied. The word tasted metallic. On the drive back to the hotel, she said softly, "Sometimes you have to add a little spice to change the flavor." I stared out the window. I just hope we are not the ones choking on it. She did not answer, and the road ahead glimmered wet, long, uncertain. The kind of road you cannot turn back on once you start. Charlotte was heat and glass sunlight sharp enough to cut. The restaurant she chose was the kind with minimalist decor and waiters who spoke softly. I arrived on time, already knowing this would not be just lunch. Lauren greeted me with an air kiss that landed somewhere near my ear. "You look good," she said, as if surprised. "You too," I answered, though she looked like a magazine spread, not a person. We ordered iced tea and salads. She talked about her honeymoon on the Amalfi Coast, the villa, the view, the private chef who really understood plating. Every detail felt rehearsed. Then she shifted gears. "So you and Maya seemed close." Ryan mentioned her firm is handling an evergreen biotech contract. Small world. There it was. Curiosity wrapped in control. We have worked together a bit, I said. She is smart. Lauren smiled thinly. Smart can be dangerous in business, especially for outsiders. Or useful, I replied. For a moment, she studied me like she was trying to measure how far I had drifted from the version she knew. Mom has been worried, she said. She thinks you are getting involved with people above your weight class. I almost laughed. Did she text you that, or was it a family memo? Her eyes hardened. You have always misunderstood us. We just want you to make good choices. Good choices meaning safe ones. Ones that do not embarrass you. She leaned in, whisper sharp. You know nothing about our world. Maybe. But I saw your husband in Beaufort, I said evenly. At the bar with someone else. Her face went still. You must be mistaken. I wish I was. For a moment I saw the flicker. Fear, anger, denial. Then she laughed too loudly. You always were dramatic. Seeing ghosts again, Evan? No, I said quietly, just finally looking straight. She pushed her chair back. You have made Mom ashamed for years. You could have done anything, but you chose to make pastries. Pastries. I chose something that does not lie, I said. You should try it sometime. The check arrived, but she intercepted it. My treat. Next time, maybe you will have something worth celebrating. She left before I could answer, perfume lingering like mock applause. I sat there a few minutes longer, breathing through the sting. Then I left a $25 tip and walked out into the Charlotte heat. The sun hit my face hard. My phone buzzed. Maya's name. We need to meet, she said without preamble. I found something bigger than Ryan. We met that evening at a small cafe by the river. The place was quiet except for the hum of cicadas. Maya's face was pale focused. Evergreen Biotech is under internal audit, she said. There is evidence of falsified environmental cost reports. Guess whose signature appears in half the documents? My pulse thudded. Ryan. She nodded. If the investigation holds, he is finished. And Lauren, she will be collateral. I sat back, absorbing it. You knew this was coming. I suspected. People like him cut corners when they think no one is watching. I am not here to destroy him, Evan. I am here to hold up a mirror. And me. What do you want from me? In this, I want you to stand still while the mirror reflects. Do nothing vengeful. Just let truth do the work. I stared at her across the table, the reflection of the river lights trembling on her glass. You sound like you have done this before. She smiled faintly. Not quite like this. We did not speak for a while. The cafe closed, lights dimming one by one. Outside, the night smelled of rain and rust. I watched the river move dark and certain, carrying pieces of everything it touched. In the window, I caught my own reflection. Not the man behind the pillar anymore. Not the brother in the shadows. Just someone learning how to stay visible without asking permission. The path ahead was clear, even if it was not safe. What came next would decide not just who they were, but who I would finally let myself become. St. Augustine waterfront pavilion glittered like a chandelier. Turned sideways, glass ceiling catching the late sun and throwing it back in fractured gold across the water. I tied a white kitchen towel at my waist and took my place behind the dessert station. Silver linen soft amber lamps, rows of lemon honey tarts, and dark chocolate opera squares lined up like a small, disciplined army. From somewhere near the entrance, I heard my mother's voice pitched low to Lauren. Do you think he is just staffing the table and Lauren cool as ice? Maya probably arranged it. I smoothed a tray that did not need smoothing and let the comment pass. Guests drifted in waves. Executives with practiced smiles, city officials in tailored suits, photographers stalking the lighting like hunters. Denise Caldwell moved through the room with a calm gravity that made other people step aside. When she reached my station, she pressed a hand to the linen and looked at me, then at the stage. "You are not staying back here," she said and nodded to the MC. A moment later, my name was called. The spotlight was clean and unforgiving. I stepped onto the stage, breath steady. Denise's voice carried without strain. "Ladies and gentlemen, the craft behind tonight's desserts is not just flavor, it is principle. Please thank the person who brought both Evan Carter." The applause started polite, then grew. I let it wash past without drowning in it. In the front rows, Lauren froze mid-clap. My mother's smile faltered, then returned smaller. I was about to step back when another mic came to life. Maya. It was not on the program. She crossed the stage like she belonged there. "Sustainability means nothing if the people inside the numbers rot from shortcuts," she said evenly. "Tonight we celebrate honest work, the kind that holds when pressure hits." The room tightened. Ryan's head snapped up. Denise's eyes flicked toward him, then back to the audience, as if measuring wind speed before a storm. I saw Ryan slip out the side door. I moved without thinking past a curtain and into a service corridor that smelled faintly of bleach and sea air. Maya was already there facing him. Ryan's jaw was set. "You do not get to grandstand in my house," he hissed. "You will lose this contract." Maya did not blink. "We do not need leaders who falsify environmental costs. Your signature is on numbers that do not exist. Integrity is not negotiable." He saw me then, and that old contempt lit his face. "You think plating pastries makes you a man?" he said, taking a step closer. "You are the guy behind the pillar. You were born to stay there." I closed the distance until I could see the pulse at his throat. "If you believe that," I said softly, "why are you so afraid of what happens when the light hits?" Maya's voice cut between us. "We are done here. Come back, Evan. There is a room that needs the truth." By the time we re-entered the hall, Denise was at the podium again. Her tone had changed to measured formal, the way bridges speak when they decide not to collapse. "Evergreen Biotech's future is built on transparency," she said. "Tonight we recognize partners who insist on it. People like Ms. Maya Collins, people like Mr. Evan Carter." The applause rolled forward like a tide. I scanned the crowd. My mother lowered her head as if studying the pattern of her dress. Lauren stared at me, mouth parted as if language had slipped out of reach. Under the glass ceiling, the river threw little coins of light across the walls. I exhaled slow and full, and this time it felt like the breath belonged to me. Later, the terrace was quiet except for the water moving under the pilings. I leaned on the rail. Maya joined me. Shoulders relaxed, the air around her finally cool. "You won without breaking anything," she said. "I did not win," I answered. "The light did. It does not pick sides. It just shows what is already there." The river shivered silver like sugar melting on a brulee, and somewhere inside me a circle closed neat and true. But the heat had not finished its work. Not yet. Autumn came early to St. Augustine, the air thinner, the mornings edged with pine. Oak and Ivy Bakery opened a second storefront on a corner near the park windows, tall enough to flood the cases with sun. We painted the walls a quiet cream and hung a single shelf of copper molds above the espresso machine. Stability looked like that to me, simple, useful, earned. The headlines were less pretty. An internal audit at Evergreen Biotech. A suspension. Ryan Abbott's name threaded through the local business section like a stain that would not lift. Denise Caldwell stopped by the shop the week we started serving at the new location. She stood in the doorway holding a slim folder. "It is official," she said. "He falsified environmental cost reports to siphon budget. Maya's team timed the disclosure within the guardrails. The work goes on. He does not. I wiped my hands and nodded once. Has Lauren heard? She met with Maya this morning, Denise said, and her expression softened in a way I had not seen before. Brace yourself. Lauren came in just before closing. No makeup, hair pulled back like she had lost the energy to convince anyone. She did not look at the display case. She did not look at me. She sat, hands flat on the table. I am not here to apologize, she said. I want to know why you kept quiet when you knew. Because I have spent years trying not to turn into the parts of us that hurt people, I said. Because I did not want to win the way you and Mom taught me winning looks. I stopped auditioning for spaces that only value appearances. She raised her eyes then, and whatever mask she wore to survive finally cracked. I thought you were weak, she said. Maybe you are the only one of us who is not. We sat like that for a moment, the oven humming behind the counter, the air heavy with butter and something like grief. She left without touching anything sweet. I boxed a lemon tart anyway, and set it by the back door just in case. 2 days later, Evelyn Bennett arrived unannounced for the opening celebration. She moved through the crowd with that well-bred glide, shaking hands, approving the flowers, pretending this had been her idea all along. When the room thinned, she came to the counter and rested her fingertips on the glass. You surprised me, she said. I was not trying to, I answered. I was trying to live right. She slipped an envelope across the counter. The paper was heavy, the handwriting immaculate. Consider it an advance for Christmas orders, she said. I did not touch it. I will bake for Christmas, I told her. But we do not price things with blank checks. She paused as if the script had run out. Then she nodded once, took the envelope back, and left her gloves on the counter like a flag lowered without ceremony. That night the shop went quiet early. I locked the front door, flipped the sign, and joined Maya in the kitchen. We sat on stools, sleeves rolled flour dust, turning the stainless steel a soft mat. I used to think revenge meant watching the other person fall, she said. Now I think it is standing so steadily they have to rebuild themselves to face you. I learned silence is not surrender, I said. Not if the truth is loud enough inside you. I preheated the big oven, the one that runs a little hot on the left side. The smell of butter lifted as if on cue. Rain slicked the street outside until the storefront lights doubled in the glass. I slid a tray in and watched the first blisters form on the laminated dough, and I said to no one in particular, the night my sister sat me behind a pillar, I thought that is where the extras go. Turns out people in the shadows do not disappear. They just wait for the light to be honest. In the weeks that followed, the rest arranged itself. Ryan's position dissolved. Lauren resigned from Evergreen Biotech and started a small nonprofit that funded coastal cleanup crews. She sent me a link and nothing else. Maya and I signed papers that made our partnership official in business and in life. The lease had both our names. Holidays felt different. No more scoring points with perfect toasts, just people trying clumsily to learn respect without a scoreboard. I boxed 6 tarts for a late pickup, wiped the counter, and switched off the case lights one by one. The room dimmed to a gentle hum. Outside the park, trees shivered, and somewhere a train called the city forward. The recognition I had chased for years had not come from a room full of applause or from my mother's pride. It arrived in small, stubborn moments like this. A steady oven, a clean ledger, a hand finding mine in a crowd and not letting go. Sometimes life does not give you a standing ovation when you finally rise from the shadows. It gives you a quiet room, a warm light, and the peace of knowing you did not need to destroy anyone to reclaim yourself. I used to think justice had to roar, but now I know it can whisper. And that whisper can still move mountains. If you have ever felt invisible, if your worth was measured by the wrong eyes, I hope my story reminds you that you do not need their permission to shine. The moment you stop asking to be seen, the world starts noticing anyway. If my story touched something in you, let me know you are here. Say hi in the comments or tell me where you are watching from. I read every single one. And if you believe in stories about finding dignity in the quiet, about standing tall without hurting back, please subscribe to the channel. I am Evan Carter, and this was my truth for anyone who has ever been hidden behind a pillar and still found their way into the light.